This video is part 3 of a video series I'm putting together documenting the process of building your own backyard pond. In part 1 and 2, we went over pond excavation and installing the pond liner. Now comes the fun part, rocking the pond. Rocking the pond not only gives the pond a more natural appearance, the rocks will help protect the liner from prolonged UV exposure, which will greatly extend the life of the liner. The rocks and gravel also help create a healthy environment for fish, as the beneficial bacteria will colonize on the surface area of the rocks. Those microorganisms aid in the healthy breakdown of fish waste and other debris, helping to keep the pond clean and clear. So I was able to haul all the boulders and rocks and gravel for this project in a small SUV. Loaded up the back seat, the back of the car, and just took a bit of muscle to get some of these bigger boulders out. And using my trusty all-steel wheelbarrow, don't ever try this with a normal wheelbarrow, I was able to get even those larger boulders out to the back. In some cases I actually pulled out a dolly. Now the majority of the larger rock and boulders I'm using for this build are moss rock. They're the least expensive, readily available, and I actually really like the way they look. They got a natural appearance, they're kind of camouflage-like. But I also did throw in some Napa basalt rock. It's quite a bit more expensive, but I just like the contrast to having a few different tones of rock in the landscape. Makes it look all that much more natural. So we've got all different shapes and sizes of rocks and boulders, big, small. Then I also picked up quite a few bags of pond pebbles, river pebbles, and Mexican beach pebbles. Now the river pebbles are mostly going to be used on the shelving of the pond. The pond pebbles are going to mainly go on the bottom and then around the edging of the pond. And the Mexican beach pebbles as well, they're a much larger rock, and those will go kind of on the outside on the edge. So as you can see, I've already started the rocking process. And if you look close, you can see how I'm putting the skinnier, flatter rocks towards the walls of each one of the shelves, especially in the narrow areas. Too thick a rock is going to really crowd the design. And that's why it was important while I was picking out the boulders, keeping in mind how I wanted to line these shelves. And so with that being said, that's exactly what I'm doing here, is just lining the shelves with the boulders. It's going to be the first step to the rocking process. And it's like a big puzzle. Not every rock is going to fit right into place the first time. A lot of it is about setting it, moving it around, seeing if it really fits into place, if it looks good. The main thing is you don't want any loose boulders, anything that's going to fall over later that you'll have to deal with once the pond is full. So I say take your time, enjoy the process. This is your opportunity to be artistic with your design. And things are coming together nicely. I also just want to mention that I didn't have an exact amount of boulders I was going to need for this project, so making a couple trips was actually helpful instead of trying to get it all in one swoop, because I may have gotten too much or too little. In this case, not too much, because I wouldn't have been able to fit it all in my small SUV anyway. And for purchasing these type of rocks, I do recommend not going to a big box store, but rather finding a landscape supplier or stone supplier. You can search out those phrases on Google plus your zip code and find what's near you. And the best scenario is to find a stone supplier that has its own quarry. That way you're going to get the best selection and the best prices. So I'm going to start adding in some of these pebbles now, and after throwing one bag in the pond, I realized I really need to wash these off before putting it in the pond. Even though we are going to do a final rinse of the pond, I want to get the majority of this gunk off of these rocks. There's a lot of dust. That way I don't have to try to remove all that from the pond later. And then around the edging, and this is why it's good to have some extra material, extra pond liner, about a foot or two coming out around the edge. I'm doing another mixture of these rocks, and I'm also making a lip with the liner right against that top layer of rocks. This is going to help to stop any landscape runoff if we have some heavy rains. You don't want water flowing from your property into the pond. It can actually create some pH issues, which can be dangerous to your fish. But just a couple extra inches around the edges there, just as a backup. The pond itself is also slightly elevated from the rest of the landscape. And on some areas of the shelf, the rocks are just kind of sloughing off the side. So in some cases, I'll just put another little boulder right there. Just give it some more character and help secure the rocks on the shelf. And we are looking good. Just going to go around now and cut off any of the extra pond liner material that's sticking out that I don't need. And a box cutter makes quick work of that task. Now just some final finishing touches around the edging. In this area, I'm just going to be using some wood chip. And we'll come back around a little later and touch up any areas where you can see some of that liner popping out. But for now, everything's looking really good. Now we're just going to give all these rocks and boulders a really good wash down. And here I've got a Drummond submersible utility pump, 1600 gallon per hour. Picked this up over at Harbor Freight, and this really did a great job helping to pump out all that dirty water. And I just ran that line over to my loquat tree. Might as well get a good watering out of the deal. And we're just going to keep on spraying down and pumping out until that water starts to run clear. So all in all, this took about 20 minutes, but now we're finally getting just clear water here. Everything's looking really good, and we're about ready for the final step, filling this pond with water, stocking it with fish, plants, putting a fountain in there, and all that's going to come on the next episode. So stay tuned for that. That'll be coming up shortly. Anyway, just want to thank everyone for watching. If you enjoyed the video or found it entertaining in some way, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to the channel. New videos every week, sometimes every day, and I'm always updating on all the projects going on around here. So thank you so much, and until next time, this is Dan from plantabundance.com. Take care, I'll be talking to you again soon.